So yes, we do make tea in the microwave. I have seen people in the US who have kettles. I hadn't seen it though before. I was probably in my 20s. A relative up in New England had used one because we don't drink a lot of hot tea where I'm from. So that leads me into a first question. I asked you all to send me questions. By the way, hi. This is my face. My hair is a mess. This is what I look like. I'm always kind of a mess. So not sure if I wanted to be in front of the camera like this. We'll see how it goes. So yeah, I do have some notes here of questions and my topics to talk about because I am not much of an extemporaneous speaker. If you've heard me do my videos before, I have to use a script because I will say all the time. I will go off on a tangent and then it would be very long, and you all know I don't like long videos. I like the short videos. So I do have notes and I'll probably be looking down at them a lot, and we'll see how this goes. But yeah, I've got my tea here to start out my morning. It is morning here in Florida. So happy afternoon to you in Britain. And hopefully this will go up on New Year's Day. So happy 2023. I hope to see you all in Britain this year because I haven't been back in a whole year. So of course I want to be there as soon as possible. But I did get a special treat, which you saw in the post I made about this. And it is, I got my favorite cake. It's my favorite cake. I love Battenbergs so much, and they're very expensive to get here, and you have to get the Mr. Kipling, whereas I think, sorry Mr. Kipling, but I think the store brands are just as good. But as you can see, this will not be an unboxing because this has already been opened and I have already started eating them. Actually a couple of them. So, but I will have one now for my breakfast. I do eat cake for breakfast. That's me. You know me, I like cake. So I'll munch on one of these. So, I don't think I'd ever get tired of this cake. I would eat it at least once a week if I lived in the UK. Oh, so in case you couldn't see it when I did the tea, I'm drinking Taylor's Scottish breakfast tea. I had this before, and then I went to a store called Marshall's. Let me see if oh yeah, there's the tag, and I was able to get it for $3.50, which is I think half of what it normally is, maybe actually even more than half. But Marshall's is sort of like a TK Maxx. We have TJ Maxx, which is the same as TK Maxx, but Marshall's is a store that will have the same kind of things, but they will often get like British candies, treats, because they have odd assortments of treats and sweets, candy, and tea. And I've had some British teas there before, but they had a whole selection of sort of Taylor's herbal ones, and I had to dig through it to find one. They only had like one of these Scottish breakfast teas, but I looked up and I found it. Okay, so I'm gonna keep this moving, get to some the questions that you guys asked me. So the first one, back to where I live and who I am in the US. Oh, speaking of, before I do that, sorry to my Scottish friends, I am wearing an England football t-shirt. I bought this a long time ago at a Target. And I think Scott from Scotsland is gonna be dismayed because he's named me an honorary Scot and I'm wearing an English t-shirt. But I love all of you, I love the whole country. So I have an English t-shirt, I have Scottish t-shirts, and I'll wear those in the future. So yeah, let's get to the questions you guys asked me. And please respond to my answers and give me any of your thoughts too, because I love chatting with you guys in the comments. So Eric, thank you Eric for always leaving me fun comments and giving me good new ideas for things to see when I come and visit. Eric wanted to get to know me and find out what makes me tick. That would probably take a year of videos to explain, and nobody wants to watch that. I don't want to do that. It's hard to explain what makes me tick because I have some like very weird interests, but I guess I will start with Eric is a big fan of Disney World, and I live not too far from Disney World, close enough to I could go for the day if I wanted to, but I'm not interested in going to Disney World. So I feel bad for Eric because if he lived where I did, he would be happy and he could go to Disney World every day. But yes, I am from Florida, and I'm not just from Florida. A lot of people move here later in life. It is warmer. I understand why in life, but I'm born here. Not only born here, but I have many generations of ancestors who were from Florida. And my Scottish ancestor, who I don't know if I talked about this in my Erin videos, but I went to Erin partly because Erin is beautiful, but also my ancestor, Robert Henry, was from there, and he emigrated to the US, and multiple family members of his emigrated to the US and then came down to Florida, and there is a county called Hendry County, and it is named after not my ancestor, but one of his relatives. So they've been here a long time, and yes, I am this pale and from Florida. But as I said, I live north of Disney. Well, I live near Disney World, but I live north of Disney World. So we're actually kind of have a tradition of like Southern culture, Southern foodways, for example. So if you've watched my shopping videos where I've been to the grocery store in the UK, I always pick up Southern fried chicken bites and things like that, foods like that, because I find it really amusing to try them and see that. I don't know why you all, someone there decided let's introduce KFC, and I mean, that's great that you guys love that, and it's like everywhere in the grocery stores, all these different Southern fried chicken, and since that's always been one of my favorite foods, it's fun to try them over there and see what you all come up with. I just wish my campaign to get British style cakes and scones here in this country would take off, because then I could have all the things I love, like more Battenbergs, that would be great, and scones with cream and jam. So I hope that answers your question, Eric, and I hope that helps a little bit to understand more about me. But if you want to know more about me, you can ask, and I'll maybe tell you in a future video. I don't know. I can do more of an in-depth get to know me if you guys are interested. I don't know why you would be interested, but you can ask. So I hope that helps. But the next question was from Mark. Hi, Mark. We have some great chats about cake and tea and history, because Mark is a medieval history fan. So I love talking to him about medieval history. He wanted to know what inspired me to become an Anglophile, and I think the answer is here. So when I was in high school, I wasn't a big fan of literature classes. I mean, they were fine, but I always wanted to just read like my Christopher Pike books. I don't know if you guys read those. That'll tell you how old I am, but if you're the same age as me and you loved Christopher Pike books, you can leave me a comment. But I just wanted to read sort of fantasy, but yeah, young adult sort of fantasy, thriller, horror type stuff. But one of my teachers assigned Pride and Prejudice when I was in high school. And it was the first time in a literature class, a school class, where I actually loved the book. I could not put it down. I did, what was I saying? I have notes because I wanted to remember what I said. I loved the banter between Elizabeth and Darcy. So yes, I did enjoy the romantic elements, but what I also really, I think, got on was with Jane Austen's sort of attitude towards society and critiquing it. And I felt like it was kind of snarky, which I'm a big fan of. I love a bit of a snarky tone. So yes, Jane Austen's Pride and Prejudice as a teenager was probably the first time I started to get the inklings of Anglophilia. And then I'd always been a fan of British TV they show it on PBS here, so public broadcasting. And I enjoyed those shows. We would see like Are You Being Served and Mr. Bean, but when I started watching The Vicar of Dibley, I was hooked and I wanted to watch everything. I love Vicar of Dibley so much. It's still one of my favorite shows, one of my top 5 favorite shows. So Vicar of Dibley and Jane Austen, maybe snarky lead women, with a sense of humor. Maybe that's what I like. I don't know, but those are two of the reasons. And then I think it just built from there. I like history. I like the British culture. I like classical music. There's a great classical tradition in Britain, so I enjoy that as well. So a lot of interests that all kind of come together and make me an Anglophile, plus the food. It's good food. So I hope that answered your question, and we can chat about more about my favorite shows and books if you guys. But then the next question was from Dara, our friend from Magenta Otter Travels, who's great. She makes lots of fun videos about visiting historic sites, but we especially share a love of afternoon tea, and she's made some great recommendations for that over on her channel, and a love of cheese and just food in general. So hi Dara. She wanted to know what I want to do on my next trip, which is always a good question because I'm always planning my next trip. I think even after my 2 months that I spent last year in the UK, I think for about a month afterwards, I was just still recovering from traveling for 2 months. But after about a month or so, I started thinking, what do I want to do next time? So I'm always thinking about the next thing. So I have a lot, I'm sure you can imagine, since I really like to see as much as possible. But next time, I think what I'm going to do is I'm going to prioritize the sort of extreme south and north of the country, which I have not been to. So I have never been to Cornwall. I was supposed to do that last year, but it fell through and I had to cancel that part of my trip. And then it's kind of the same with the north of Scotland. I spent a long time staying in Edinburgh, spent a month living in Edinburgh, and it was just hard to get up there and do all the day trips. I wanted to do lots of day trips, and I did do that, accomplished that very well, but I didn't make it up to the far north. So I would love to do that. You know, North Coast 500 would be great, but it doesn't have to be that. Even if I can just get up to sort of the North Coast and see it on a day trip or a 2-day trip would be great. But yeah, I don't drive when I travel, so I have to rely on public transportation and tours. Tours are very helpful for that. So speaking of Scotland, my Scottish friend Terry, please go follow Terry's Travels channel. He does a lot of walking, hiking, and we also, he and I share a love of the scone. So that's what his question is for me today. He asked how easy is it to get a British scone in the US, and have I ever baked them myself? So how easy is it to get a British scone? It is very difficult. There may be some places where, say a big city like New York, that quite does a British scone the way that I've had it in the UK. I mean, they're different sometimes in the UK from each other, but in general, I haven't found one. If you're gonna get a scone here in the US, I'll insert a picture. This is what we see here, and it's a little bit drier, crustier it's a bit drier. It's usually filled with different types of fruit or different flavorings. It just has a different texture, and of course we don't have the cream and jam with it. We don't serve it that way. So you eat them by themselves. And to me, the closest that I've had that you might know if you're in the UK is, I had a Fat Rascal at Betty's Tea Room in York. Those are so good. I love them. And that's probably the closest to that. And, oh, have I ever baked them myself? Terry wants to know. I have tried, but I'm not very good at baking. I'm not much of a cook. So I did attempt I was gonna try them myself, try making them myself, because I found some clotted cream here once, and I didn't even get to baking them. The dough was so bad. I was gonna like take a photo of it and share it, but it was such a mess. Will I try it again? Maybe, sure. But my dad is a really good baker, and he baked scones a couple of times when I got the clotted cream, and they turned out really well. So I've had them a few times here, and hopefully I can learn how to make them so I can have them again myself. But also, I don't want to eat them with, I just don't like them with butter and jam. I know some people like them that way, or some people like them and are happy to have them on their own. But if I can't have the clotted cream, it's like, I have to have the clotted cream. It's like the first step. If I find the clotted cream, then I want the scones. I hope that makes sense. So thanks, Terry, for your question, and hope you're enjoying a lovely scone and some tea today. And then Scott from Scottsland, you can also subscribe to his channel. He does a lot of walking, but he lives in Glasgow too, and does a lot of live streams and other things in the Glasgow area, which is always fun for me because I love Glasgow so much. I cannot wait to be back in Glasgow. That is someplace I will go back to the next trip because I just want to see more in the area anyway. So I'll be back in Glasgow hopefully very soon. So Scott wants to know the differences in restaurant service between the UK and the US. And that is such a great question, Scott. Thank you, because this is something I talk about a lot with people here in the US. And I say, I'm so confused. Even all these times I've traveled to the UK, I still don't understand how this happens. But in the US, when you're in a restaurant where you're getting service, they come and check on you a lot usually, and that may be related to tipping culture. So we have a tipped minimum wage, which is lower than the minimum wage, and a lot of people rely on heavy amounts of tips to support themselves. So here they're attentive, and they also want to turn over tables, I think, very often. And if you're in the restaurant industry, you can clear that up for me, but I believe that's what I've heard, that they want to clear the table so they can get another party in. And so they come and check on you a lot, and then they kind of hurry you along and they bring you the bill. They'll say, do you want the bill? They never ask this in the UK, so there's, especially at first, when I first started going there, I would just sit there and be like, where did my wait staff go? I'm done with my food. Like they might even come, I feel like they will even come in, clear the plate, and you could be sitting there staring into space, and they'll wait for you. And I would love to hear what you guys think of that. Is that kind of something you're just used to if you live over there? You're more assertive and you ask for it, but I was kind of waiting and waiting. So I think on the last trip, I got a bit better about hello, flagging people down and saying, can I get my bill now? Because I'm done. But as an American, that is something that's really awkward. And I was actually talking to a friend of mine who's a dual citizen here about this when we were discussing the questions I've got, and she said the same thing, that she's been going there since she's a kid because she's a dual citizen, and one of her parents was English, and she still has trouble with that. I think that's always going to be trouble for us from the US, is the having to flag someone down and getting restaurant service to get your bill. But it's a difference in culture, and it's something you learn when you go over there. It's just, I have to let them know that I'm done and I want my bill so I can go do my sightseeing, and I have to be more assertive. And Scott also wanted to know, this is another great question, if I was on a desert island and I could only take 3 UK foods or treats with me. That's a good question, but a tough question. So I actually thought about this for a few minutes, and I have stuff listed and then crossed out because I couldn't decide what I wanted to select. So my first immediate thought was I gotta have a tatty scone. So I love my tatty scones, or tatty scone. I shouldn't do the Scottish accent. No, I don't think so. So my tatty scone, which I fell in love with. I first had it on a breakfast roll though. So should I just take tatty scones, or am I allowed to have, Scott, you're the judge of this because this is your question. Am I allowed to have a breakfast roll with egg, tatty scone, and some brown sauce? Because I have to have the brown sauce with it. Can I have that as my main meal? Because if it's breakfast roll with egg, tatty scone, and brown sauce, if that's allowed as one of my choices, that's what I'm bringing because I love it. I'll eat it every day. That's perfect. And as mentioned before, of all the sweet treats, I know I talk about cake so much. I love cake, but I think if I only had the 3 to choose from, I would choose a scone. as we discussed, I love scones with clotted cream and jam. So I have to have all three together because I have to have the clotted cream and you have to have the jam. And yes, Devon way, cream first. Hashtag cream first, always. So second choice would be scone with clotted cream and jam. And then the third one, oh, it's so hard to pick one third one, but I'm just gonna go for it and say Welsh rarebit because it's cheese, it's bread, it's toasted, it's warm, it's one of my favorite foods. I get it when I can. I've had it in Wales now. I don't know if that matters. But so breakfast roll with, gotta have a tatty scone, and scone with cream and jam, plus Welsh rarebit would be my three foods that I want. So I have a feeling this video is gonna be way longer than I wanted it to be because I did go on a little bit. So we'll see how it goes. Thank you so much for watching. Thank you so much for subscribing. Thank you for chatting to me about tea, cake, books, and especially about British travels because I love nothing more than chatting about British stuff. Thanks for watching today, and I'll see you on the next one. Bye.